Evolution.org Underground Supplements episode coming your way. This is episode 23. This is going to be a good one. It's going to be how supplements can help your blood work improve. So, in this one, look, we're going to talk about hormonal blood work, how to improve them with HCGenerate, which is a supplement, organ blood work, and how to improve them with N2 Guard, which is a supplement. We're going to talk about why N2BM is a great supplement company that we trust. So, very, very important. Let's go over this. So, first of all, let's talk about lifestyle. And look, at the end of the day, most of you listening to this podcast, you're thinking about using steroids or you've used steroids. And most of you, obviously, listen to this, you're looking to improve. You're looking to improve yourself. And part of the improvement process is making your body healthier. We want to feel better. We want to sleep better. We want to have more energy. We want to do all this stuff. So if your organs are being strained, that's going to be a problem. It's going to have a domino effect on everything. So, lifestyle is very, very important. And not to be preachy on this, but if you live in America, our food is extremely cheap compared if you go to other countries, even third world countries, food is a lot more expensive versus what people make, okay? Way more expensive. In America, food is cheap. And the food companies like it like that because they want volume. They want to sell, sell, sell. They want to make as much money as they can. The restaurant industry in America is huge. The fast food industry in America is legendary. You know, McDonald's, for example, franchise, so many McDonald's on every corner in America. You have all these franchise restaurants, and all over the place. And it's important. Everybody wants to open up a bar or a restaurant or open up a franchise, fast food franchise, and they want to make money. So it's dependent on people eating a lot of low quality food. So you have control over what goes on in your body. When you're eating poor quality food, the problem is it puts a lot of pressure on your organs. It stresses your body out. Just an example before I bring you in, Mobster, refined oils are in everything in America. Anytime you order food in, you order a pizza, you order a burger, you order any of the stuff from a restaurant, it's going to have refined oils in it. Why? Because refined oils are cheap. So the restaurants save money. Refined oils are satiating. So you feel like, wow, I just had a nice meal. And at the end of the day, where do those refined oils go? They go straight to your arteries, both inside and outside of your arteries. This is why you have so many people getting heart attacks. When you add steroids to the mix, when you add our stressful lifestyles to the mix, it's a recipe for how many people do you know who have had heart attacks? We all know people that have had heart attacks. It's an epidemic. You go to other countries, heart attacks are very rare. You don't see people dying of heart attacks. See people dying of other things like bacterial infections or stuff like that. But you don't see people dying from heart attacks. It's unheard of. And 100 years ago or 150 years ago, it was extremely unheard of for people to be dying of heart attacks in America. But now it's an epidemic. So, bottom line is you got to clean up your lifestyle first. You got to reduce the stress. You got to do your cardio to strengthen your heart. You got to stop abusing your body with the recreational drugs and the alcohol. And this is how you can start improving your blood work right off the bat. So I'm sure I'll let you talk a little bit about that and then we'll get into hormonal blood work numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with every single word Steve Smith just said. There's no argument whatsoever. One issue, which Steve Smith didn't mention, is the use of prescribed medication, Steve. And so, for example, guys, we've actually discussed this on previous shows in similar vein, where people fail to understand certain over-the-counter medications, never mind prescribed medications, can affect your blood profiles. As a simple example, one that we've used before, Steve, is anti-inflammatory medication, whether that's Advil, ibuprofen, just as another example of over-the-counter medications, aspirin, paracetamol, and so on and so forth. Right, and this will be for fever reduction, anti-inflammatory, certain stomach pills, and so on. And you're taking it because your shoulder aches. You're taking it because you've got a temperature. What you don't realize, for example, with some of the anti-inflammatories is that you're irritating the gut lining. Some of the prescribed anti-inflammatories come with another medication simply to protect the gut lining. So you start to understand that, ironically, Steve, the anti-inflammatory is actually inflaming a part of the body, which is not what you took it for. You're taking it for the aching shoulder, the aching wrist, or wherever else. And if you took a blood test before you took the anti-inflammatory and you took another blood test afterwards, you would see some markers off. Now, one of the things, and again, not to sound too preachy like Steve says, if you are taking prescribed or non-prescribed medication, if you are essentially, to use that euphemism, Steve, enjoying yourself a little bit too much with recreationals, if you are, for example, and this is just one that came up in the last couple of days on the forums, someone came online, quite responsible, Steve, asking for help. They mentioned that they'd had a blood test. These are fucking great. These are thumbs up, bonus points. You've done the right thing. But they mentioned in passing that they might have overindulged in the season, meaning caned it like a moron at Christmas, Steve. All the wrong kinds of foods, stuffed Christmas pudding and mince pies and God knows what else down the back of the neck. Drunk a little bit too much, maybe had one or two cigars too many, and so on and so forth. Gone out and partied, had a hell of a New Year's Eve, or whatever, and quite sensibly, quite responsibly got a blood test recently in the last week or so, and some of the numbers were off. And it's kind of common to see people come onto the forums who do not always mention PEDs and talk about the simple fact that their numbers are off. It might even be one of their regular checkups, Steve, annual checkup for insurance purposes, whatever. And the doctor says there's a couple of numbers here that we need to look at. And rather than fix the lifestyle issue, stop overindulging, cut back on the anti-inflammatories, not be over-reliant on certain medications, and so on and so forth. Just as an example, Steve, and I'd actually suspect more than a few of our listeners, including you and I, might be occasionally guilty of this. We push ourselves in the gym, cause inflammation, and then some listeners will be treating that inflammation that we've made happen ourselves by training like idiots, pushing the envelope, and then taking an anti-inflammatory to treat the inflammation that we ourselves have caused. So, of course, we say, well, take your foot off the gas, guys. Don't push to point with inflammation. Don't then need to take inflammatories, and then don't need literally things that you can fix yourself. Simple things like a good diet rather than hitting a deli every day, or as Steve says, hitting fast food in America is, I mean, here, Steve, is a big thing, but in America, I'm going to slightly tongue-in-cheek, it's almost like a religious thing. I know the number of local burger stores, fast food stores. We do not have Mexican, we don't have Chinese, we don't have Asian. It's pretty much burgers and variations on burgers with some fries and wraps and that kind of thing. But it's very rarely multiple different ethnic type of food, fast food stuff, and that's by the roadside. Never mind high street restaurants and so on and so forth. But we do have KFC, we do have McDonald's, we do have Burger King. I believe there's a new American branch franchise opening up relatively locally in Cardiff, and that might start to be somewhat spread across the UK. So we do follow, if we are a few years behind, we do follow the American pattern in terms of fast food and Uber Eats and having stuff delivered. Not enough of us are cooking from scratch and eating fresh fruit and vegetables. These are easy fixes. I don't want you to get down the route, guys, of just taking another pill, even if it's a solid ass supplement like HCGenerate or Guard, to fix something that you should start with yourself. That might be lifestyle, Steve. It might be staying up late all the goddamn time. Might not be getting enough rest. Might be burning the candle at both ends. You and I have done this with work. Back in the day when we weren't getting enough rest, we were young. We was doing 15-hour, 16-hour days and then going out and then getting a few hours sleep and then repeating it the next day. Guys, fix some of those problems that can be fixed. Then 100% listen to the rest of the show. And that's why you're listening to this show anyway, because you are of that kind of mindset where gonna train, gonna try and eat clean, gonna try and optimize my lifestyle, want to get fit, want to look good, want to be healthy. and fix the things that you can fix, and then listen to the rest of the show and follow the advice. We're going to talk about the ingredients. We're going to talk about their benefits, and surprise your doctor. Make it a thing. Make it a thing, listeners, where you're going to go back for your annual checkup next year, and your doctor's going to go, Jesus Christ, your numbers last year were a little bit off. Today they're fantastic. And here's the thing, and I actually said this to Steve a couple of days ago when we recorded another show, and we've mentioned this on previous shows like this. We've actually seen physical evidence in the blood test that people have taken. They followed our advice on the forums. They've used these two products, and they've compared the previous blood test with the next blood test. I know that Steve's seen multiple, via talking to clients, improvements in people's blood tests just by lifestyle changes and by using these products. Literally, I think one that sticks in mind, Steve, the comment was something like, I listened to you guys, I took your advice, but even I was surprised at how the results came back. And this is in a positive way. And that can be relatively quickly. Make sure to give yourself plenty of time off. If you do use PEDs, make sure to do proper PCTs. Make sure to use these herbal supplements to aid that process. But at the same time, fix your lifestyle. Look at the medications you're taking. Do you still need to be taking certain medications? Watch your over-the-counter use of medications, prescribed and unprescribed, and see if those things, even that's just less booze, a few less late nights, and maybe just better choices when you're out and about. Some restaurants do offer healthier, not necessarily healthy per se, but healthier choices. That might be the way to go. There's a tendency, and we're all guilty of it, including myself, to occasionally enjoy ourselves a little bit too much with the ice cream, with the cake, with the biscuits, with the fast food, and with the lifestyle that some of us have in terms of sheer hard work, etc. I get it. If I was at Steve doing 6-7 days a week, 5.5 days a week, which is typical American working life, we do more hours work per week than we do here in Europe, and certainly here in the UK, then I would be tempted to buy something when I go home because I would be tired and I don't know if I'd want to do a scratch meal when I get in. So make sure, guys, these are the things you can do. Look at your meal prep again, guys, like we talk on other shows, etc., etc. So, yeah, back to you, Steve.
So let's get into the hormonal blood numbers. And this is important to get these numbers done before a cycle. Sometimes people will want to get them done during cycle, and I'll explain why in a second. And then obviously when you come off, you do your cycle PCT, and then a few weeks after you're done with PCT, you want to get your numbers done to see how your recovery is going. So luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, LH and FSH, they're both very important indicators, and they tell you how well your pituitary glands are functioning. Because if these numbers are getting spit out, then that tells you that your pituitary glands are spitting out hormones. So there's a couple things to watch out for when it comes to LH and FSH. Now, when you're on cycle, your LH and FSH is going to drop to zero. Why? Because when you're taking exogenous hormones, your pituitary glands go dormant, and that's completely normal. So it's nothing abnormal about that. And then what happens is sometimes after cycle, or even during PCT, a lot of times, when you're taking these SARMs, they'll cause, when you're taking these SERMs like Clomid and Nolvadex, your LH and FSH will be extremely elevated because those SERMs are causing your pituitary glands, or kind of manipulating your pituitary glands into spitting out those hormones. So let's say, after PCT and stuff between cycles, your LH and your FSH are still running a little hot. What would that tell you? That would tell you that yes, your pituitary glands are spitting out a lot of hormones, but that's not good either because it means that your Leydig cells aren't functioning the way they should. So the LH and FSH feeding your Leydig cells, and your Leydig cells aren't functioning, which are your balls. They're not functioning the way they should. So your pituitary gland will increase the amount of LH and FSH that it is doing because it's not getting that estrogen feedback from the testosterone, and then that converts to the estrogen. So that's not good either. So that could be an indicator that your Leydig cells aren't functioning the way they should either. So you want these numbers to be balanced. Very, very important. Not too high and not too low. and that will tell you that you're recovering good. So that's what we want to see. Now, total testosterone is an important number when you come off steroids, so you can kind of get an idea of where your baseline is. So before you ever run an anabolic steroid cycle, or let's say you just want to see where your testosterone levels are at, it's always good. Now in America, we go by nanograms per deciliter. So with that, you could do the conversions wherever you are in the world. But with that, the FDA says that the numbers should be somewhere between 250, 300, up to about 850, 900. So again, with testosterone, some people can function perfectly well at 400 nanograms per deciliter or 300 nanograms per deciliter. Some people don't feel well, and they need to get that up to 700, 800. So this is, we have a whole show on that, but that's what the numbers mean. Free testosterone. This is the amount of testosterone in your blood not attached to proteins and is the bioavailable or active form. So with free testosterone, that's what really matters. Total testosterone is a nice number to know, but free testosterone is what matters. So typically, when you have low total testosterone, you're probably going to have low free testosterone. Sometimes it's kind of like right at the bottom of the range or something like that. But in general, if both are high, if one is high, the other one's going to be high. If one is low, the other one's going to be low. So that's pretty much what to watch out for. Now, estradiol, high estrogen or low estrogen could be a problem when it comes to mood, libido, erections, and the ability to succeed in the gym. So if you have high estrogen, you'll start getting side effects. If you're running Dianabol or testosterone, too high of a dose with no AI, your estradiol, your estrogen is going to go up, and that can cause a lot of problems. Gynecomastia, bitch tits is a big one. Water retention, domino effect of blood pressure, insomnia, just feeling like no energy. And then low estrogen is just as bad too, because low estrogen, you'll have issues like depression and mood changes, and you'll have a hard time putting on muscle and strength. So these are the five main hormonal numbers to watch out for when you're checking your hormones. So we're gonna talk about ingredients to help your hormones. Mobster?
Listen, and this is more for the newbies to PEDs than it is for those of you that are experienced. It has to be said that some of these numbers can be affected by dosages and so on and so forth. So just to be clear, and this is probably aimed at more of a small percentage of listeners in terms of new to PEDs, and you're starting to do your research, you're listening to the show to get educated, you kind of want to know what's going on in your body. Maybe you've been surprised by a blood test. I'm going to probably say we're looking at 5 or 10% here, Steve. What happens is people will go on PEDs, they're on the forum, they're asking the right kind of questions, and Steve especially, myself too, and a few of the other guys, get your bloods, get your bloods, get your bloods. We talk about pre, during, intra, and post cycle blood test. We talk about if you're self-TRT, or even if you TRT with under a doctor or via a clinic, they will get you checked through the year to see where you are in terms of your lipid profiles and so on. It needs to be understood that if you take anabolic steroids and certain SARMs, you will see an effect on your blood test. This is important. You will occasionally get, this is the 5 or 10% that I mentioned. I've just come off cycle, or I've just started a cycle, and I'm shocked at my blood test. Is this normal? The answer is yes. Obviously, what we don't want to see is sky high levels of certain hormonal profiles listed on your blood test. We don't want to see stupidly low this. We don't want to see stupidly high that. We don't want to have, we don't want to be looking at anything that's going to cause you any serious medical issues. But do not be shocked or surprised at certain items on that list on a full blood profile. And come onto the forum. There's articles that Steve's done. There's clinics that can get you good blood tests, etc. We talk about the kind of blood tests that you want to ask for when you're getting blood tests. And then again, you can come on the forums and ask, here's my blood test results. You can blur out your name, etc., etc., etc. Here's some of the red flags that have come up, and ask us to break it down. But you must understand that you training incredibly hard, consuming a high protein diet will affect your numbers. This is without PEDs. Dieting, being dehydrated will affect your blood numbers. We know that just from the scientific tests that have been done on those particular things. And especially using, and this is especially true, Steve, at more than the medical dosages for what we call performance enhancement levels, using PEDs, performance enhancing drugs, and SARMs at the levels that are typically used, even the low sensible doses that we recommend on these shows, will make an effect on those numbers. So don't be too surprised and shocked. Obviously, here's what we're going to get into now, Steve, how we can help you with those numbers by using these products. So back to you.
Yeah, so remember, these are hormonal numbers. Some of the things that Mobster talk about, we're going to discuss in the next segment, which are the organ numbers that he was talking about, being dehydrated and stuff like that. So being dehydrated is not going to affect your testosterone levels, but it could affect, things like your creatinine levels and the blood urine nitrogen, which we'll get into shortly. So let's stick to just hormones now, Mobster. Let's go over some of the ingredients that will help your hormonal blood numbers, not just during PCT, between cycles, also on cycle. So why don't you start with the first couple on the list and tell the guys what they do.
Right, so we're looking number one here, Steve, is Ferdosia agrestis. And this supplement has been shown to help with both testosterone and libido. Another one, Steve, and this is one that some of the listeners might actually have heard of as a standalone supplement, which is fenugreek. And this ingredient not only supports your entire reproductive system and boosts libido, but will also help balance estrogen. So again, guys, just think about the second one especially. You might have seen certain standalone ingredients talked about individually, and fenugreek is incredibly popular in particular regards. And when we talk about your reproductive system, literally the ability to procreate, your testosterone levels, and so on and so forth, boosting your libido, makes you more horny. It certainly gets you back to how level you would be off cycle, if not slightly ahead. And then, of course, how do we say balancing estrogen? So, in other words, that estrogen testosterone ratio needs to be a certain particular number, especially as per the majority of our audience, Steve, in men. It's slightly different ratio in women, of course, but it's going to get it back to where it needs to be, back in the balance. I'll let you take the next couple, Steve, and obviously jump in when we need.
So 3,4 Devanol is another one. And this one is great because it helps boost free testosterone levels. So on cycle, it's going to help your hormones work even better. It's going to help your cycle run even better. But also in PCT, when your testosterone levels are diving, what happens is the free testosterone ratio can go up. So that can actually be a big boost to have that effect. Tribulus, one of the most popular supplements out there, sexual health, fertility. It's a great option in PCT. It's a great option on cycle as well. Vitamin E, this one has been shown in studies to help with fertility in men, and it's a great natural boosting testosterone levels. And look, if you don't have vitamin E levels in the body, you're not going to have be able to help your reproductive system. So it's essential to have vitamin E supplemented. It's a very, very important one.
Steve, let me jump back in just briefly to bang the drum hard on Tribulus because I've done this on multiple shows. I'm familiar with the early research when it first came out and was mentioned in the bodybuilding publications. I've talked about the Bulgarian researchers and the Eastern Bloc that was working with athletes. We know that the Eastern Bloc, especially Russia, was dosing their athletes with steroids and keeping hopefully a decent eye on the results. And then, of course, the International Olympic Committee started to get much better at testing. And so what was happening is they were dosing these athletes in the off-season, Steve, getting as big, as strong, as fast as possible, and then trying to take them off drugs long enough so that they didn't fail the test when they were at the Olympic Games and various other athletic meets. Tribulus became a big, big thing because they were looking for something that helped boost testosterone while their athletes were off steroids, while their athletes weren't using performance enhancement. And so This became a huge thing that caught the notice of those nutritionists and people that are interested in performance enhancement in bodybuilding, in weightlifting, outside of the Olympic Games. And there was a whole thing that I've talked about on other shows about the particular product, the leaf, the plant, the time of year, the location the plant was grown in, and everything else. Those things are still super important. When we talk about products like Ed2Guard or HCGenerate, I've mentioned before on other shows how important it is that the ingredients are grown in a certain place, in certain conditions, with a certain quality, that you must get the right part of the plant, where possible, standardized, and so on and so forth. And Tribulus was one that I've mentioned many, many times. Another one is, Steve, I'm going to say LJ100, a Tonga Alley. This is another one that's incredibly well known against in performance enhancement, testosterone boosting, etc., and specifically great for stress, mood, boosting athletic performance, sexual health, which is what we want, of course, boosting testosterone and free testosterone, exactly like Steve said. I'll do the next one, Steve. Zinc, great for sexual hormones and balancing estrogen. If you've listened to similar shows before, I've told a little story about just how effective on its own for the in the short term, it just producing, and I'll put it quite crudely, Steve, more cum, more splodge for you guys to get out of your system in a very, very short term. Fantastically healing. And we're training super hard in the gym. It's one of those things that helps you recover. It's one of the things that actually helps, I believe, like the scabs, the scars, and helps your skin heal, wounds, obviously, etc., etc. And again, you're stressing yourself in the gym. But surprisingly, kind of almost ignored now, Steve, in terms of testosterone boosting, and yet works incredibly well. Again, with all of these ingredients, make sure that they are dosed. When you look at any rival product, not N2Guard and HCGenerate, you go away and look at something else. Look at the dosing, look at the quality, look at the material used. Does it need to be standardized? Is the dose high enough? And so on and so forth. Zinc doesn't need to be massive. Massive dosage is quite relatively low, but it's surprisingly good. Very, very, very simple as a great way of boosting testosterone. And we're saying specifically here sexual health and so on and so forth, Steve. So back to you again.
Yeah, so the good news is instead of buying all these supplements separately, the good news is you can just take one supplement that has all of them, and that's HCGenerate. And we talked about HCGenerate at the beginning. And HCGenerate has been around a long time. I'd say 15 to 20 years, and I've been using it for at least 15 years myself. And the product works amazingly well. So buying all these products separately would cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars. The HCGenerate comes all in one bottle. So it's a great supplement that has all of this. And it's going to help you with all the things we talked about, the LH, the FSH, getting it balanced, boosting testosterone and free testosterone, and balancing estrogen. So on cycle, definitely in PCT, it's a must. Between cycles, or if you're not even using steroids, just using it as a natural testosterone booster, it's going to really help you in the gym and in the bedroom. So let's talk about dosing. 5 caps a day, split dose, but you can run all five about an hour or two before bedroom or gym activity. So a lot of people like to run it 2 to 3 caps in the morning, 2 to 3 caps in the afternoon. That's how I generally run it. But again, if you want to really get a boost an hour or two before whatever, you can take all five at one time. So, really a great option, and it's going to really make a difference in your recovery after a cycle, and it really helps. I always recommend when you're doing PCT, if you're running Clomid and Novadex, okay, I always recommend to people to run HCGenerate with them because it's extremely important to help out those side effects that you get from those serums. Those serums can cause some nasty side effects, and I've seen, you can just Google, Clomid made me want to cry. Clomid made me weepy. Clomid made me depressed. Novadex killed my sex drive. Just Google this. You'll have hundreds and thousands of threads where people complaining about these side effects. So why do you keep doing that to yourself? You must stack a strong testosterone booster if you're going to be using these serums in PCT, as you should. And HCGenerate is the one to use because it has all these ingredients in it and it will help offset those side effects. Momster touched on that, and then we'll move on to the organ blood work numbers.
Yeah, listen, there's an argument to be made, Steve, and we've made this on other shows, for actually using HCGenerate on cycle. You will be suppressed because you're using testosterone as part of your PED stack. But at the same time, you're keeping those organs, your testicles, etc., as healthy as possible. So the moment you come off, you will enhance your PCT. So it's definitely an argument to be using a low dose on cycle, a sensible dose as suggested during your PCT, and even just as a bedroom booster, as Steve said. This is going to come down to your just how loose you are with your pocket, guys, in terms of your wallet and whatever else. But look, we use this analogy all the time when we talk about how some of us will look after a car, and especially if we have a car for the weekend as well as a car during the week, and we will treat that baby better sometimes than we treat ourselves physically. So the idea that you can recover quicker, the idea that your sexual health is maintained, the idea that your testicles, etc., are being treated well so that when you come off cycle, you recover quicker, so that your sexual health returns to normal, so that your organs, your blood numbers are better. Literally everything about you. Again, guys, how is it the few of you are putting some fantastic oils and regularly get your car serviced, but one think in the same kind of way? This is how I should be looking after myself. So there's definite benefits. And again, come onto the forum and find out from examples of people running logs where they've done exactly what I've just said, that they've used HCGenerate during a cycle, as well as a PCT, as well as a bedroom booster, and seen the benefits. Felt better, Steve. So yeah, let's talk about N2 Guard specifically here, guys, with looking after your organs. Look, let me just start this to begin with. It is important to look after these, use supplements like this to look after your organs, both on and off cycle, that are going to affect your organs. And when we're talking about organs, we're looking specifically here, focus today, Steve, is liver, heart, and kidneys. Look, we've also mentioned benefit of looking after your lungs and looking after your brain and even your skin, because these are all organs. Okay, there's definitely, look, as you get older, these organs decline. And again, we are trying to push it hard. Some of you are going to compete on stage. You're going to be restricting your diet. I'm doing certain stupid things in the gym right now, Steve, that if I wasn't healthy, would be incredibly hard to recover from. And some of our competing athletes that we have on the forums there, it's exactly like that. You're looking deliberately to get dehydrated, Steve, deliberately restricting your diet, deliberately pushing the volume, deliberately killing cardio. Some guys have had to train late at night, early hours of the morning. And all of these things, the stresses that we deliberately put on our body, never mind using PEDs, just the other stresses as athletes, wouldn't be athletes and gym users, are going to affect these things. So, look, N2 Guard is a product that contains 44 total ingredients. That's a hell of a list. And I challenge you to look for similar products with 44 ingredients in. It's certainly not even comparable on price, Steve. There are at least 6 liver supplements alone in a formula, including Tudka, Picriliv, and Milk Thistle. And that's just 3 of the 6 specifically for that. And let me just finish this little bit when I bring Steve back in. When it comes to heart health, it contains omega-3, vitamins, coenzyme Q10, polycosanol, apopectin, folate, and more. And then for kidneys, you've got pantothenic acid, chlorophyll, Tudka, and a host of vitamin and minerals. So I bring Steve back in to talk about those a little bit, specifically the organ health focus, Steve.
Yeah, so let's go over the organ blood work numbers so we can really understand the liver, heart, and kidneys and why these ingredients are so important. So, look, the first one, AST and ALT. And what these are, they're enzymes that become elevated when your liver becomes strained. So you'll notice when you get blood work done, these numbers should be capped at around 40 or 45 area. And you'll notice, depending on what you're using, if you're using an oral steroid or even injectable steroids, even Tylenol, even prescription drugs will hit your liver. Really, any type of drug is capable of hitting your liver, even if it's a mild steroid. It can definitely hit your liver. So you want to watch out for that. And it's common for these numbers to get elevated. It's no reason to panic. but you definitely want to be on your liver supplements while this is happening. And then what happens is when you come off, it's going to be easier for these enzymes to clear through and not be hitting your liver and causing that red flag, what's going on. Now, cholesterol, this is a big one and a very, very misunderstood thing to watch for in blood work. So there's three types of cholesterols you should be watching out for: total cholesterol, LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, HDL, which is the good cholesterol. So when you use steroids, these numbers are going to go crazy. And the more you abuse steroids over time and the more dosing you use, it's normal for these numbers to get out of whack. So it's nothing to panic over, but again, you want to be on your supplements as this is happening because when you come off the cycle, the numbers will normalize quicker. If your cholesterol levels are too strained, it's going to cause an issue. The next one has to do with kidneys, and that's creatinine and blood urine nitrogen, which is BUN. And these are waste products that would become elevated in bodybuilders and can be a red flag for kidney issues. So again, sometimes Monster talked about at the beginning of the show, you go into a test dehydrated, that can cause these numbers to be elevated. Carrying a lot of muscle mass, high protein diets can cause these numbers to be elevated. You're breaking down muscle from training day in and day out, that can be elevated. Supplements can cause, if you take some creatine supplement, that can cause a creatinine,
Yeah.
it can show up. Although that's debatable, I'm not quite sure. I've seen enough evidence to show that,
Let me cover
but
that a little bit for you, Steve. I mean, this is actually recommended whether you guys are using PEDs or not. This is just solid advice, and bearing in mind how big Steve is on fasting. Okay, so one of the ways to get an accurate blood test, just for normal general health, never mind training your asses off, eating restricted diets, taking supplements, etc. This is just sensible advice. The best way is to be hydrated but fasted, i.e., they typically tell you if you're going to have a blood test in the morning, try not to eat for the previous 12 hours. That's number one. Number two, and this specifically comes down to creatinine and creatine as a supplement, but creatinine specifically. If you train your asses off, and the BUN as well, Steve, you can give a false red flag if you trained like a motherfucker the day before or even the morning, Steve. I've noticed that some people have done this the morning of a blood test. If the test is in the afternoon, let's say you've trained legs, it's a nice high volume session the day before or the morning of, and then you go and get a blood test. You're going to get false red flag numbers because the best advice is to be hydrated, fasted, and not to train for a couple of days. I'd actually try and do it this way, Steve. I would train Friday and have the blood test Monday and just literally not train at the weekend.
yeah, I
Don't
don't
take
think it's gonna
supplements.
matter. I think you'd have to stop training for 2, 3 weeks if
Oh,
that's
there
the
you
case.
go. Yeah.
But,
So that's how much of
yeah,
an effect it can have. But again, this sometimes, if it's just
yeah,
a single number, it can be scary. And you can explain to the doctor that you use supplements. You can explain to the doctor that you're on PDs.
yeah.
You can talk about your diet.
A
But
lot of
again,
doctors don't understand that bodybuilders have, strained kidneys because you're holding so much muscle mass
yeah,
over time. So we can make excuses, but at the end of the day, it's not healthy to be carrying that much
let
muscle
me just
mass. It's
bring you
not
in for a
healthy.
second here,
But
Steve.
that's how it is. Yeah. That's why
How
you need
bad
to run.
was? Do you
That's why
remember?
you need that's why you
Sorry,
need to run these kidney supplements in the first place
yes.
as a
Do you remember
bodybuilder.
how bad the whole creatine debacle was 10, 15 years ago when doctors would seeing people that had passed away or athletes that come into ER in really bad condition and they were blaming creatine as a supplement for, I think the classic one was the high school wrestlers wearing the sweatsuits that sat in a sauna and dehydrated to the point of passing out and dying. And when they did blood tests in the autopsy, they said that their creatine levels were really high. So it was, and then the headline became, of course, that creatine had killed them. And you go, no, it was sitting in 100 degrees in a plastic fucking suit, dehydrating itself to make weight for a wrestling tournament. That's what dehydration killed them. Using 5 grams of creatine did, but it was one of those red flags. And some people who haven't quite learned how to read blood tests, and again, please come onto the forums and we'll give you advice on that. Will see these things and get a little bit scared. And my doctor said this, and especially if it's your local GP and they've no knowledge of working with athletes and so on and so forth. So just come onto the forum and double check us for that kind of information, etc., etc. Yeah, back to you, Steve.
All right, so the last ones that you really want to watch out for in your is the red blood cell count and hematocrit. So red blood cell count, look, back in the old days, they would blood dope. They would take blood out of their system, and then before an endurance race or an athletic event, they put the blood back in. Why? Because they wanted more red blood cells. So that's good. You get more endurance, you get more strength, you get more energy, you get more good things, right? So you can excel athletically, right? But here's a downside. When you have elevated red blood cell count, more blood in your system going through your arteries, it's going to open yourself up for, along with the hematocrit, high hematocrit levels, it's going to open yourself up to blood clots. It's going to open yourself up for thickening blood, going through arteries that are already having a hard time because of all the, as I talked about at the beginning, all the refined oils that we're throwing in our bodies. We consume, many of you out there who are eating out and eating fast food, you consume more refined oils in one day than our ancestors consumed in their lifetime. How sick is that? So you combine all that with our stressful lifestyles, then you're opening yourself up for a heart attack. This is why you see bodybuilders dropping dead of heart attacks. So these are numbers not to take lightly. Now, one of the things you can do, obviously, is go donate blood. And you can actually get a prescription from a doctor to go and have blood drawn out of you, a pint of blood, and that will help. But what I recommend is going twice a year and getting red cells donated. And that is something I do, which I do that every 6 months. I'm only going to let you do it every 6 months. You can also go donate whole blood, which you can donate more often. I think it's every 6 to 8 weeks or maybe every 10 weeks or something like that. But you can go and do that, and they usually give you like a little gift card or something for donating. So you can go online and check that out, where to donate. They have the buses that go to different shopping centers, or you can go to an actual location and walk in there and sign in and everything, and they can they can take your blood. So that would be a
Just,
good
just as
way.
just as a bonus, Steve. Not only are you benefiting yourself, guys, you're actually benefiting a lot of other people. So there's a certain element of feel good factor to the benefit you give to your community
Yeah.
and those people that need blood, as
So
well
so
as yourself.
the so I donate through oneblood.org. So if you're in the United States, you can go to oneblood.org, and they're all over. And the nice thing about them is usually like a couple weeks after you donate, you can go in and they'll actually have blood work numbers that they'll tell you. They'll tell your cholesterol levels, your iron, and all that stuff. But also what's cool is they'll tell you where your blood went. So they'll say it went to a patient at this hospital or this patient at this doctor's office. So it's kind of cool to see that
That's
you're
awesome.
actually
Awesome. Yeah.
saving lives in the process. And at the end of the day, there's been movies about this. There was one movie about a guy who donated. He died in he got hit by a car, and his organ went to someone. I think it was his heart. It went to someone who needed his heart, and then that person made it his mission to track down the
Yes.
family.
Yes.
You
I've
know the
seen
movie.
something like that.
It's
Yeah.
like 23 grams, I think is the movie's called. It
Well,
had
I've seen
with
a
Sean
short
Penn.
version, a short something or other on Instagram, Steve, when they'd lost their child in an accident. The heart had been part of the organ donation, and someone had managed to arrange for the young man that had received the heart to attend a family function, and the emotion. And they were literally putting their ear to his chest and listening to their son's heart beating in his other person's chest. I mean, that was, as you say, both. I can see why it was done into a movie. I believe, as I said, there's like a documentary or a little 5 minute thing on Instagram, so you can see that. I know that one of the things, and I've actually said this before, he bangs the drum quite hard on this one. Our former IFBB pro, James Llewellyn, is the local former pro, makes a particular point of mentioning these given donation and how rewarding that is for him personally. But of course, the reason he's mentioning it and the reason why we say it on this show as well is because he knows that if he encourages someone else to donate blood, they too will be benefiting someone else in that particular regard. he'll be on nothing more than the TRT dose now. And there's a big feel good factor that both in terms of your own health and the benefits that you'll get from donating, but also the benefits you give to other people, community. And it's one of those things, it's almost like a sort of slightly tongue-in-cheek joke, Steve, where you're not supposed to mention that you donated to charity because it's a bit narcissistic and a little bit self-serving. But at the same time, when you talk about donating in this particular way, you are trying to encourage other people. So that's, we mention it on this show for your benefit, but we also mention it on the show for the benefit of other people. Back
And
to you.
then the movie is not called 23 grams, it's called 21 grams. And it has
Okay.
Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn, Naomi Watts. It got two Oscar
Yeah, I
nominations.
know.
And it was directed by Alejandro Inarritu. Do you know who that is, Mobster?
No, no idea who
Have you
it's.
seen the movie? Have you seen The
No,
Revenant?
I know all those actors.
No,
That's
have
a
you
hell of
seen
a
The
lineup.
Revenant, the movie The Revenant?
Yeah, I know. I haven't watched it. I know what it's
Oh,
about.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's the guy who directed that
Oh,
and wrote
he.
that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That
That's his
sounds good. Then. Yeah.
every movie he does is a great movie. So anyway, in that movie, what happens is the guy's walking down the street with his kids and he gets hit by a drunk driver. And then his organ goes to another guy who's Sean Penn, and then Sean Penn finds out who donated in the story and he plots out revenge to go and kill that drunk driver to get back, because the drunk driver killed that father. So anyway, that's what the movie's about. So I won't tell you the rest of the movie. It's actually a really good movie. If you guys want to go check it out. So let's talk about this. So look, it's very very important on cycle to protect all these organs. And Mobster talked about already the ingredients, but Entugard, it's got those liver ingredients. My favorite out of all is Tutka. And Tutka was an ingredient that Entugard did not have originally in the original formula. But Entugard over time have improved the formula, and Tutka was something they added. So they not only added the Tutka, but they've added more ingredients over time. The other liver one that I really like is Prickolive, and that one is a very important one. And they use Tutka and they use Prickolive in doctors will actually have their patients go on it. And then the same thing with some of these ingredients when it comes to heart health. Doctors, a cardiologist, they'll recommend their patients take omega-3 supplements. They'll recommend their patients take coenzyme Q10, CoQ10. And a
And
lot of, and
I want to ask Steve a question because I think the listeners need to hear this. And we actually touched on it very briefly in the pre-show. We've done a show before, Steve, you'll recall, when we literally compared similar products. When I say similar, one example is barely there on the radar. How does N2 Guard stand up in terms of ingredients, in terms of dosage and etc., to some of the rival products that we've looked at, two of which, one's a big one in the UK, one's a big one in the States, and one should be arguably big worldwide. But the comparison was incredibly poor. Talk about that, Steve. And you know the one I'm on about. I can give you the numbers if you need to.
oh yeah, I mean, look, there's all kinds of support supplements out there, and what they do, these support supplements, they sell them really, really cheap. So people are like, well, do I want to go with a supplement that's this much or that much? And they're gonna want to go with the cheaper supplement, but the cheaper supplement ain't gonna do shit for you, especially if you're a steroid user. It's not gonna do shit. So you're wasting your time. So N2 Guard, it's got everything in the formula and it will blow you away. It is the number one supplement. These are professional bodybuilders. We had Monstro on the show. We have guys like Body Monster. We have guys on the show, a Quad Sweep and Jason Priest. These guys are competitors, former competitors, who were professionals, and they use N2Guard. And N2Guard is a great. You use it, I use it. I've used it for years. One of the things with N2Guard that you'll notice this when you're on cycle and you run out of N2Guard, and a week goes by, you'll start feeling side effects. The side effects will start coming on. Your sleep will get worse. Your energy will get worse. Your blood pressure, your all these numbers we talked about when it comes to cholesterol levels, they'll start going haywire. Okay, and then you get back on N2Guard and you start feeling better, like within like 2 or 3 days. So you'll know it's working, and it's amazing because with N2Guard, the same people come back and buy it over and over again. So that is the difference between N2Guard and other supplements. Other supplements, people will buy it once, maybe twice, and then
Yep.
they'll never buy it again because it doesn't do shit. But N2 Guard, they keep coming back over and over and over to buy more because it works. And it's a great investment in your body, mobster. It's just a great fucking investment. And it will, if you're going to use steroids and you're going to cycle steroids, it's a must.
Yes.
And it's a must
Absolutely.
to keep things going good. Now let's talk about how to dose N2 Guard. Do you want to start?
Yeah, by all means. Look, guys, you come in a bottle where the serving is typically 7 capsules, and on that basis should last you a month. Again, we'll get people questioning the cost of this, Steve, but I'll bang that drum again at the end. Some users will run 3 to 4 capsules a day in an effort to save money and make the bottle last longer. And there would be some effect, but you won't be getting the full benefits. I have seen people, like Steve said, this is not just what we're saying on this show. Come onto the forums and check out where people have noticed a difference between using N2 Guard, kind of getting a little bit healthier, skin's a bit shinier, the eyes are a little bit brighter. They run out or they couldn't get the stock in. Oh, quick tip here, guys. If it's in stock, grab a couple of bottles. Just don't get the one bottle. It does sell out from time to time, and you will notice a difference, as I say. You've got different situations you can talk about here, Steve. So, for example, occasionally, and I always refer to use as per the label description, but there are certain times, and I'll bring Steve in for this. For example, if someone was on a trembolone stack, Steve, I know that you've talked about this. You can run it at the lower dose, like we said, but you really, my thing is always to start with the 7 capsules per day. But talk about if, for example, Steve, you was running a trembolone cycle, which can be very stressful on the body, what would you dose it at then?
Yeah, and I like if you're running an aggressive stack, when you're running at least 1,500 or 2,000 milligrams per day of gear. I'm sorry, per week of gear, or you're running trend. It doesn't hurt to run a little extra. Like I'll go up to 10 caps on certain days, especially like going into the weekend, because I'm really, by the time Friday comes, I'm fried. My brain is fried, my body's fried. I worked out during the week. Fridays, I'm like, ugh, I'm done. So sometimes, like leading up to Friday, like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'll up it to 10 caps if I'm doing an aggressive cycle. So that's really good. On the flip side, if you're doing a very mild stack, let's say you're running SARMs, or it's during PCT, or it's in between cycles, you can go lower. You can go 3 to 4 caps per day, and that bottle will last twice as long. So I always tell people I like to save people money. So it's better. 3 or 4 caps a day is better than none. So, and even 2 to 3 a day is better than none. If it's in between cycles and your blood work looks pretty good, maybe there's a few things off slightly, you can run like 2, 3 caps and get somewhere. But the average is going to be 7 caps. And you can definitely try different dosing and see what works for you. There's really no wrong way. As long as you're using it, there's no wrong way to do it. So let's touch on,
let, let,
yeah, go ahead.
let me. I want to talk about N2BM, but I also want to talk about those comparable, and I say comparable products. Okay, guys. So one of the things that I like to encourage you to do is a little bit of your own research, just to verify what Stevesmi and I are saying, because we could be shills. We could be on here pushing a product, pushing 2 products, and say, listen, we're getting a backhanded, guys, which we're not, but we're getting a backhanded, guys. And the company paid us to big up their products. So you can verify certain things that we can send. You can verify ingredients, you can verify dosages, you can verify the quality of the ingredient, whether it's standardized and so forth. On a previous show, and this is just as I'll bring Steve back in to talk about N2BM as a company, especially when it started, Steve. We one probably the biggest selling product just by sheer numbers comparison. This is just a price comparison and an ingredient comparison. And I'm not even going to name the product because why the fuck should I? Fuck them, Steve. It had 5 ingredients. And I believe a phrase that Steve used at the time, it wouldn't do anything for your granny. I think that wasn't quite exactly how Steve put it, but it was pretty much as near as damn it would. It wouldn't do it. Your granny would need to use 2 bowls because the dosages were so low as to be a joke. I think it was literally their ability to name these 5 ingredients on the bottle and the name was comparable to the next best thing back in the day. And it was kind of a joke that they'd managed to be able to use that name on the side of their tub. And to say that it was cheap, I think I found on Amazon.co.uk a way of buying 10 tubs for the equivalent of $5 each per tub. And there's no way price wise that N2 Guard or HCGenerate, especially the N2 Guard in this example, Steve, compares for price. Forget that. But again, I think there was just enough dosage in there, Steve, probably to give to a kitten or a gerbil or something. It was a joke. And the next two best products, I think one had 12 ingredients. That was the UK version. And it's actually okay. The intent was there. The company owner is quite good at putting out information, etc., etc. But it was still about 1/3 of the dosage compared to N2 Guard, and that's in terms of the actual dosages. So you'd probably need to double up or triple up on the pill use. So it wouldn't last you a month; it'd last you a week or so. It only had, I think it was 12 ingredients, something like that, Steve, versus 44. And again, we've listed on a previous show where you could take the list of ingredients, pick 4 at random, and go away and look for yourself to see if the benefits that we've claimed for those ingredients is the case. If the dosages that's in the ingredient is the dosages that was shown in studies to be correct. We've talked about ingredient synergy, and this is where someone that puts together these kind of products needs to work very, very hard. This is where they get paid the big bucks, Steve, whether that's at a formulation company or a person doing the research to try and put this product together for the formulation company. And that is combining the products in such a way that the products support each other. Talk about specifically here, Steve, the reason why Need to Build Muscle, N2BM come into existence and what they try to do for athletes, etc. Why we love them as a company.
Yeah, and the low-hanging fruit out there is to hire a bunch of pro bodybuilders, hawk the products on social media, and just there's nothing special about those products. It's the same shit. It's just the same shit with a different label and a different bodybuilder promoting it. That's all it is. And these fitness influencers, they have no morals. I don't know how they sleep at night hawking these shitty supplement companies and shitty supplements that don't do shit. It's crap. It's crap. And you're going to take a support supplement, as you said, Mobster, that I wouldn't even give the granny. It's not going to do anything for her. How the hell is it going to do anything for a steroid user? It doesn't. And they don't use the products themselves, but they recommend them. It's just so fucking weird. It's not weird. They're just fucking, that's how they make their money. They don't want to make an honest living. So that's what they end up doing. They don't want to work, for a living. They want to just hawk bullshit supplements, and they laugh. They get an enjoyment out of ripping you off. And then the supplement owners are all businessmen. They're not athletes. The founder of N2BM was an MMA athlete, played sports, soccer, MMA, all kinds of sports. And he wanted to put together a supplement, him and along with his co-owner, who was a former military person who served overseas. They wanted to put together supplements that serve bodybuilders specifically, not grandma, and not bodybuilding supplements that serve grandma that wouldn't even be good enough for grandma, but I'm going to have bodybuilders promote those supplements. No, they don't use Lamborghinis. They don't use sitting in a hot tub with 5 escorts that they ordered off from some agency to make it look like, you take my supplement, you're going to be in the jacuzzi too, Mobster, with 5 women. No, they don't market like that. It's all word of mouth. N2BM is word of mouth. They don't have to hire bodybuilders to promote junk supplements because their supplements sell themselves. So that's the difference between N2BM and other supplement companies. And they wanted to have a supplement company that catered to bodybuilders and steroid users. Notice they don't sell protein powder on their website. You know why? Because most bodybuilders don't consume protein powder. That's a fact. Most bodybuilders eat real food. So when they used to sell protein powder, the owner actually told me this, like, we'd sell protein powder and no one would buy it. They wanted things like N2 Guard. They wanted things like HCGenerate. They don't want protein powder. They want supplements that help them with their cycles and help them with their PCT and help them recover and help them with their organs, heart, liver, kidneys, help them with their libido, sex drive,
Yeah,
erections, all that
Steve,
stuff.
Steve, there's a kind of illusion, and I'm a great fan of the history of the sport as we finish this show. And there's an illusion being sold for a very, very long time when it comes to supplements, in that professional bodybuilders and athletes have been used to present a product to the buyers, to the customers, to the you listener, as this is what I use to get my 20-inch arm. This is what I use to get my 60-inch chest. That was very much the case in the 60s and 70s. The reality is, as Steve said, that as often as not, that wasn't true. And in this case, the two company owners, the founder and his co-owner, actually sat down and said, how could we perform better when I was overseas in the military? How could we perform better as athletes? What can we do? Can we actually create a real product, or two real products in this example, that actually do exactly that, that they actually would be used by athletes? They actually would be used by someone that's using performance enhancing drugs to be better bodybuilder, to be a better athlete. We understand the stress. And here's another thing, just to finish off, and this is banging the N2BM drum. You will see sometimes that these products sell out very, very quickly. And it's literally people like myself and Steve and other users that will grab 3 or 4 bottles at once. Yes, they are not cheap, but they are probably, arguably, Steve, the best in the industry for what they do. You can compare other products for yourself and see that you might be saving money, but you're not getting the potency, you're not getting the quality. Guys, honestly, in this example again, please feel free to hold them up against other products and tell me that you think the other product's better. I can't see that you can. I don't think we've ever seen an example of that, guys. So make sure to look after, get your blood work done regularly, be aware of lifestyle and PED use and the effects on your blood work, certainly on lowering your testosterone and suppression of the testosterone cycle. Look at products like HCGenerate, look at products like N2Guard. Re-listen to this podcast if you want to. Please feel free to ask us questions. Definitely come onto the forums and verify the stuff that we've been talking about. And again, double check for yourself. I keep saying it because I'm pretty sure, guys, that you won't be able to find a comparison. If you want to look for the website, that's needtobuildmuscle.com. We shorten it to N2BM, but
Yeah.
needtobuildmuscle.com.
So it's N, the number two, B as
Yes,
in Bob, M as in Mary.com, or you can
that's
do
the short
need,
version, or the full version,
and
needtobuildmuscle.
that's where you can get N2Guard and HCGenerate and try them out and come on the forum and show us some pictures of the order you got. We really enjoy that.
Please note, we are not doctors and the opinions are ours. It's our view based on our experience and views on the topic. Our podcast are for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.